For all those listening out there, I took the time to go to the toilet before we started recording.
Are you in the New Look office yet or not?
No, I've come to the college office tonight because the other one's still a work site.
Oh, recording in a different room to usual.
Back where it all began, really. So it's back in the original.
Back to your roots.
Yeah, it is nice to be here. It's nostalgic.
Same old room, same old ideas.
That's right. It's coincidental because I managed to find in the drawer some of the old ideas that I might wheel out again. Give them another run. I just don't think you were enthusiastic enough about them at the time. So yeah.
People have probably forgotten by now.
Let's hope so.
So, Tim, in the last episode, you told the story of, was it the guitarist or bass player or something from Midnight Oil who was adopted?
That's right. Yeah, the guitarist.
And he later on, when he found his biological siblings, it turned out they'd come to Midnight Oil concerts and seen him perform.
That's right, yeah.
So one of our listeners on Reddit pointed out an interesting story which I thought was worth mentioning. There's someone called Bricker Bauer, and I'll just read something from her website. She's sort of like a gymnast, but she hasn't got legs. I don't know why she hasn't got legs, but she hasn't got legs. Oh, she was born without legs. And this is from her website. Born without legs, one would think Jen Bricker would be destined for a life of hardship. However, the hand of destiny brought her an amazing adoptive family who gave her one simple rule, never say can't, and helped her forge a life of triumph, not tragedy. As a child, Jen was obsessed with gymnastics, and her idol was Olympic gold medalist Dominique Morceau? I'll go with Morceau, but that's probably wrong. Dominique Morceau.
Yep.
Seemingly against all odds, Jen went on to compete against able-bodied athletes and became a state champion in power tumbling, only later to discover Morceau was actually her biological sister.
Wow.
How's that one?
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible.
That would be like you finding out Dermot Brereton was your biological brother.
Why? Is he an amazing podcaster too, is he?
Yeah. Who would be the person that would like most be, oh my goodness, that was amazing if it turned out it was your brother or sister?
I don't know. There's got to be some connection there. Like I've got to have some sort of talent, and I don't.
Probably no one then, yeah. It's definitely not Mark Knopfler.
I was going to say, that would be the beautiful irony, isn't it? Maybe we're like a yin and yang. He's on the northern hemisphere playing it properly. I'm in the southern hemisphere playing it backwards. You know, like it's the mirror image of our life.
Yeah, like backmasking. Oh, you've found all the hidden messages in Money for Nothing.
There were none, but it was good to look anyway, wasn't it? It was worth looking.
You certainly gave it very thorough inspection.
Deconstruction, yeah. What about yourself? Is there someone that you feel is you may have a connection to?
Well, I mean, the great West Indian wicketkeeper Jeff Dujon would be a good one, but he's Jamaican, and that would be amazing if we were biologically related.
Yes, you are many things, but you are not Jamaican. That's for sure.
No. I'm about as biologically different from the Douche as one can be. But
that's great.
Yeah.
I was for a while often and regularly compared to, actually there's been two people. One was Mark Latham, who's an Australian politician who's not particularly excited about being compared to, but I do look quite a bit like him, and I certainly did a few years ago when he was running as opposition leader, which in Australia means, he's running to be Prime Minister. So he was very, very famous and on the news every night. So I got that.
I'm looking him up. Yeah. Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. When he was a bit younger, yeah.
Like I went and spoke at a youth event at a particular church, a few hundred young people and stuff. And I'd spoken with them before, so that it was sort of familiar company. And when I got there was like a picture of Mark Latham on the drum riser, like where, for the band when they were playing before.
Yeah.
They were paying tribute like that. That was pretty funny.
So Mark Latham, who else do you get told you look like?
Well, the other one had only happened twice, and we've talked about this before, and that was when I was very young. River Phoenix, which you were always very skeptical of, but I'm holding on to my dear life if I have to choose. But that's something different, though. That's a physical comparison, a connection, not a
I
blood
was once told I looked a lot like Ewan McGregor by a woman at an ATM machine in Nottingham, but she was absolutely hammered.
Right.
Like she could barely stand. She could barely stand up, but I'm still taking it. I think actually maybe she was talking to the ATM machine.
He was talking, yeah, I think she...
So also in the last episode, we played a couple of covers of the Sofa Shop theme. Do you think we need to play the original Sofa Shop theme every time we bring it up so that people like as a touchstone? I always worry people will forget what it sounds like, but then...
Well, look, I mean, it's a bit like saying, do we need to remind people what happy birthday sounds like, when it comes time for their birthdays? Like, it belongs to everyone. It's global.
Yeah.
But
do I play it again?
Well, you play it just for the pleasure of playing it, man. You don't need to play it, but I want to hear it. It's marvellous.
That's right. Exactly.
We have a sofa designed for you. Choose your fabric, match your curtains too. The Sofa Shop ain't gonna cost what you think it will. Don't you do a thing until you see the Sofa Shop.
There we go. The Sofa Shop theme, a classic of our teen years. Last week, Alan Stewart produced a few covers for us. We had the Blade Runner version. And we had the sexy lounge mix.
Sofa Shop, yeah. Why don't you come and drop in?
The sexy lounge mix, I've still been... playing, like singing all week. I've been
Really?
It's become an earworm, and I just keep bringing it out. I did it in the middle of dinner tonight. Just sort of did a little head wiggle and went the sofa.
I know. I like it when he goes, "Yeah, why don't you come and drop in?" Ooh. Alan, behave yourself, Alan.
He's on fire.
If you knew Alan, it's even funnier because he's just such like a decent, nice guy.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's the quiet ones. Yeah.
It's the quiet ones. So anyway, I'm just picturing your wife coming home to that flat and like the candles are lit and the lights down low and then just suddenly it just starts in the background.
Is it Valentine's Day? Wow.
Every day's Valentine's Day when you've got the Sofa Shop sexy lounge mix. So anyway, we've had some more listeners turn their hand and turn their instruments to this challenge. You can do likewise if you like, unmadefm@gmail.com. Here's what we got so far. I'm just deciding what order to play them in. I think I might start with Han from the Netherlands. Han pointed out he was from the Netherlands because he knows Tim is so biased towards anyone who's Dutch that, I don't think it's possible to mention the Netherlands on the Unmade podcast without Tim, acting surprised and going, "Oh, my dad's from the Netherlands."
Well, it's funny you mention that because I over dinner
because my dad's from the Netherlands.
Because my dad, I just stepped. Imagine I'm Dutch. Because over dinner tonight we talked about our favourites. I played them to the fam, and so and I have one that's a particular favourite, and I'm interested to hear if it's because I don't know who the composers or performers were. I'm interested to hear if my favourite lines up with the with Hans. Is it?
Yes, Han from the Netherlands. He says, "Dear Tim and Brady, I made a piano cover of the Sofa Shop's ad jingle. It's converted to a minor scale, so it is a bit sadder than the original."
Yes, this is it, the melancholy one.
Yes. This is also the reason why I named my cover The Sofa Drop. It's the final stop for the sofa indeed. I dedicate it to all the sofas that have been abandoned or otherwise lost.
That's a magnificent version. I think that's lovely.
It moves me. It does make me feel... In fact, we should... if you watch on YouTube, or if you just did watch on YouTube, I'll put the original ad over that so you can... Because it's kind of got a sadness to it, hasn't it? Looking at all those dead sofas.
Does.
And yeah.
It's important to remember. I mean, we often... When we think about the sofa shop... Because it's the shop, they're all new. But you've got to remember the sofa shop sofas are out there for decades. And so some are still being used. They're in homes.
Yeah.
I was sitting on one the other day at someone's house. But of course, there are those that have been passed on. They've been moved out to the curb. They've been replaced. And they're still sofa shop sofas.
Yeah.
And they are gone but not forgotten.
But also, when you watch the original ad from the 90s and the camera's just panning over all those sofas, I would say most of those sofas, are no longer in action.
Yeah.
So it's a bit like when you watch old footage from like the early 1900s and everyone's bustling around the streets of New York, and then you suddenly stop and think, oh my goodness, all those people are dead. Like I'm looking at a film that's just full of people who are long, long dead. It's like that when you watch an old sofa shop ad,
Maybe that's why the sofa shop ad is a little bit more upbeat and fast, because you know how you watch that old footage and it's always at the wrong speed and people are walking along like really... Maybe that's why the sofa shop jingle is all upbeat, because they're playing it a little bit too high. It's ye olde, whereas perhaps Han has found its true speed. Maybe this is...
Well, that leads us.
You don't sound very convinced.
Well, as long as you're happy, Tim. But
Well,
ladies and gentlemen, Tim Hine, my co-host.
your well is your sort of okay. Like shut up and move. So,
That's me just mentally going through where to make the edit.
it's well, just mark
that's
it
my
there.
little mark point. All right, shall we start the show?
All right.
So no, but fair enough. Speaking of pacing, that leads us nicely to the next one.
Yes.
Let's hear from Sooi. I pronounce it Sooi, but it kind of maybe it's Sooi. I don't know how to pronounce these things. Who am I? He or she says, "Hope you enjoy it because it was a blast to make. Can't wait until every mainstream artist picks this trend up. It's only a matter of time. I, for one, already want to lock in my tickets for the first Sofa Shop Festival featuring only Sofa Shop remixes."
Whoa! Wow!
Keep up the fantastic work. Here is Soi's dance mix of the Sofa Shop.
We have a sofa design for you. Don't you do a thing until we have a sofa design for you. Your fabric that you learn to. The sofa shop ain't gone. Don't you do a thing until we have a sofa design for you. Your fabric that you learn to. The sofa shop.
Well, that takes me back. I tell you, that takes me back 20 years.
To what? To when you used to be at home while your friends were going clubbing.
to my years as an underground DJ in deep dark Berlin. Those were incredible days. They that is good. But there was a time there at the end of the 90s, wasn't there? There was a lot of that sort of dance music coming through, and that takes me back. Nice work.
Yeah.
Has something.
Did it get the foot tapping, that sort of thing,
Oh no, I'm much too old to be tapping my foot.
Didn't crack out the glow sticks.
And the happy pants. And the whistle.
Yeah.
Remember in a club when someone would have a whistle? They'd just be blowing a whistle while they'd be like, what's that guy doing with a whistle? Just blowing as they dance.
That takes me back to being in nightclubs, standing by the bar, looking at the girls on the dance floor, wondering why they wouldn't stop dancing and just walk up to me and start talking to me.
Why can't we just have a decent conversation? Will someone just turn the music down?
Turn the music down. I want to talk about chess.
So have you heard of Jeff Dujon? We might be related, favourite part of the night was on the way home, just going to Macca's. That was like,
yeah.
finally out of that, all that noise, get something to eat.
McDonald's on the way home. It was only years later we figured out we could have just gone to McDonald's and not had to
You could just save the headache and the sore ears. Oh, dear.
All right, this one has sort of got an anthemic national anthem sound to it. This is from James, and James says, I was bored and had nothing to do for a couple of hours, so I made this. If the rest of this week proves equally unproductive, I may do some other sofa-related gubbins. This probably wasn't what you meant by an anthemic version of the Sofa Shop tune, but here it is anyways. Do enjoy. P.S. It turns out that slowed down, the Sofa Shop jingle sounds just like America the Beautiful, an American patriotic song. Who knew? Think of the anthemic one. At times it sort of went a bit off-piste and it didn't always sound like the Sofa Shop, but...
Yeah, it certainly was innovative. Firstly, I love the fact that he had a couple of hours spare.
Yeah.
So he pulled an orchestra together.
Yeah.
But I like to think of this one as being sort of a big American action movie epic, and this is like the end of it. You know what I mean? Like, we've won the war, and it's kind of got that soundtrack kind of feel to it. Yeah.
I like to think of it being played before a baseball game.
Oh, right, okay.
Everyone's standing with their hats off.
It is American, and it has that feel to it, doesn't it? That epic sweep in a uniquely. I think it's the film soundtrack sort of feel. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we're going to go even more classical here with Shenyang. And Shenyang says, here is my attempt at the Sofa Shop jingle in the style of an 18th century sonata. I thought it would be hilarious trying to melt the jingle into a totally anachronistic and serious sounding style. I'm a composer and a violinist based in London, in fact, very close to the Camden Garden Centre of previous episodes' fame.
Yep.
And Unmade is my absolute favourite podcast. I've listened to every episode multiple times, and the recent increase in uploading frequency is very much appreciated by me. This has nothing to do with the song, but I'm going to read it because it's saying nice things about us.
Yeah.
Thanks for making the funniest and most wholesome podcast in the world. He also adds, P.S. Will the answers to the Unmade crossword ever be released? It's still sitting on my desk for weeks, and I'm dying to know what the last few answers are. Neglected state by Logan, ? Paying attention, ? My hair is starting to fall out. So if you've done the Unmade podcast crossword and know the answers to those, let Shenyang know. But back to the jingle, here is his 18th century sonata version.
See, I think this is seriously impressive. I think this really is a masterwork.
So I agree it's a masterpiece. Again, quite off-piste, almost like, a lot of freestyle in there. But
Which just shows what the Sofa Shop is able to do is inspire new works out of these composers, artists. I mean, I can see people are flourishing. They're not just having to be constrained. It's the sort of song that makes people spin off in new areas of composition and beauty. It's the power of the original song.
Are there other bits of music like that? Can you think of another song or work that has been able to, achieve that status?
Well, I don't think there's ever been anything quite like the Sofa Shop jingle.
No.
There are songs that are so compelling in their melody they've been covered, like Yesterday by the Beatles. It's just been covered hundreds of times. This is obviously a superior song to Yesterday, but it's a
more clever lyrics. Yesterday's a bit simple, Yesterday just goes for the basic rhymes. The Sofa Shop is the Sofa Shop's working on other levels.
It is. That's right.
Yesterday has nothing about curtains in it.
Yesterday is very vague. Whereas the Sofa Shop is about a particular shop. I like that. It's very specific. Yeah. Yes, but it's catching up now. It's had quite a lot of covers. It's had more covers than many other very famous songs.
The Sofa Shop is ruining my life. I'm actually in the process of sofa shopping at the moment. Double sofa shopping, actually. We're having to buy 2 sofas. So we spent yesterday going to a series of sofa selling shops.
Yeah.
And I felt like I was in a sofa shop ad. And one of the shops we went to, which is quite a nice sofa shop in the UK, is called Loaf. Loaf.
Right.
Loaf. And I just walked in singing to myself, the Loafer Shop. I couldn't help myself. It's just like everything is just turning into and I keep singing songs to Audrey, the dog, calling her the sofa dog whenever she's sitting on a sofa and stuff like that. I was saying, the sofa dog. It's
we did similar. We were shopping for sofa a few months back, and it was the same. The kids all day just singing the Sofa Shop. It's just it just suits perfectly sofa shopping. Doesn't suit anything else, but it suits sofa shopping. That's for
the
sure.
next generation. The next generation singing it just fills my heart with joy.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
One more cover. This is from Tyler. Hello, Brady and or Tim. I'm a jazz saxophonist from Maryland, and I was inspired by the recent episode to cover the grand opus that is the Sofa Shop theme in my own style. I reharmonized the famous tune, brought it to a slower tempo, and additionally arranged it for a saxophone quintet, the standard saxophone section size in a jazz band, for the finale. I am very new to video editing, but I tried my hand at making a video to accompany it. I hope you enjoy. So if you're listening to this episode on YouTube, I will sync up the playing now with the video that Tyler sent. But here's Tyler's saxophone version.
That also is very impressive. I love that one. That's very much a Steely Dan kind of one. It's got a lovely tight feel and that jazz. That's really impressive.
Nice.
You could sell that.
You could sell it. You could sell that. I'm not a jazz fan, but even that one, I was picturing Indiana Jones in his in suit mode, fancy dress mode, walking into some cafe where he's meeting with someone to make a deal over a diamond or something.
Yeah, right, yeah. It's very evocative, yeah.
Humphrey Bogart with a cigar. I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just saying random words and famous people's names now.
Sean Connery on a beach.
Daryl Summers on the Statue of Liberty.
Jabba the Hutt on the barge.
Jabba the Hutt on the barge works.
He actually does have a jazz band, actually. That's the... Yeah, I didn't even
Just
think
downing
of
a few frogs before another execution. So we have one more, but I'm going to save that for a bit later. You would know when the time comes for that, but it's time to move on. Actually, it's almost time to end the episode. We've been spending so long on this. We're evolving purely into a sofa shop cover podcast.
Pretty soon we won't have to talk at all. Like, I think...
I don't think there's room in the market for another sofa shop cover podcast.
So we still didn't get a country one. That's the one I was interested in.
Yeah.
We didn't get one.
No, we haven't. We
Still out
haven't
there.
got one. Yeah. All right. Well, there you go. unmadefm@gmail.com is the address. If you're a musician, send one. If you're not a musician like Tim, that doesn't stop him playing songs. So why should it stop you?
I'm getting plenty of plays, that's for sure.
You're doing really well, yeah. Because there's so much other stuff we're talking about today, I've gone for one of my, half-baked, silly ideas. We've talked in the past about the film, numerous times, in fact, we've talked about the film Brewster's Millions, where the premise is this guy gets $30 million and he has to spend it in 30 days, but there are certain constraints and rules on how he spends it. My idea is called... You could call it Brewster's Followers, but I'm going to call it Zero Followers. And the idea is, in 30 days, how close can you get your Twitter following down to zero?
Oh,
with certain rules and constraints on how you can do it.
brilliant idea. Brilliant idea.
So the idea is to burn off all your followers and get people to unfollow you, but without people realizing you're doing it, which is part of Brewster's challenge. People aren't allowed to know that he's wasting the money deliberately.
Yes.
People aren't allowed to know you're trying to lose your followers. And it could be you doing it solo, or it could be like a competition between you and someone else who starts, with a similar following. Can you get it down? Can you get it down without risking doing something that makes it go up? Which is another thing that happens in Brewster. Remember in Brewster's Millions, he accidentally he invests in silly things, and sometimes he makes money, and that's bad.
That's right.
The same could happen with my Zero Followers challenge. You could do some stupid tweet that you think is going to lose you followers, but it goes viral and makes you a whole bunch of followers.
That's right. This is a brilliant idea. Well, this is possibilities anyway. I want to do this. I love it. Yeah.
I mean, there are obvious problems with it. Like, I wouldn't want to lose all my Twitter followers in one fell swoop because my Twitter following is quite important to me and useful. So it's more of an abstraction in my head. But anyway, what would the rules be? The rules would be there would have to be certain rules about offensive tweets. Like, you would have to ban, I can think, racist tweets or particularly explicit tweets, obvious things like that. I think we would ban.
And you couldn't do something that makes Twitter shut you down or anything like that, because that's cheating. It has to be within the character that your own ethical. You have to be yourself and hold to your own ethical stance.
Maybe one of the rules would be you have to follow Twitter's terms of service, which bans some of that stuff. Another would be you would have to cap the number of tweets. Like, you couldn't do a tweet every minute because that's a very quick way to get people to unfollow you. There would have to be a rule of one tweet per hour, maybe, or something like that. But so I guess there would have to be a few rules. But then, the game's afoot.
What have you got left? You could just...
I don't know. I was thinking one thing that would possibly lose you is if every hour you just tweeted like a selfie of your face. Yeah. Like really vain. Like if you were... that would people, oh God, every hour, here's another picture of me like at the beach or something like that. Maybe that would burn. What makes you unfollow someone on Twitter?
I get if it's a bit like a dripping tap, in other words, they say the same, let's say political view, and I don't mind people expressing a diversity of political views, but if they're saying this, it feels like junk mail. You're just saying the same thing in the same way every time. And I'm like, well, okay, I know that you hold that view and you sound like the kind of person who will never change their view no matter what facts or ideologies occur, and I just, no, see ya.
I tell you what works for me. It doesn't make me unfollow people because I don't follow that many people, but it will always make me mute people. And that is if they get into really, really involved conversations with other people. But I'm exposed to it in my timeline, either because they're atting me or because it's being served to me by the algorithm. So if two people have this really long debate or conversation that doesn't involve me, but I've somehow been dragged into it, that drives me crazy. And they're having some technical talk about how to make something work or doing something, and I'm like, what is this doing in my timeline?
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Yes, so that's one. So that would be fun, being able to take someone to task over something quite inane, but in high detail, and seeing how.
But you've got to annoy your followers with it. So you'd have to do it in such a way that they're included in it.
You could also argue very badly, but that risks people going, "Are you crazy? And then actually you incite even more." Not followers, but traffic and interest, and But that's the problem with your political idea. Someone tweeting really polarizing political opinions could attract certain people that that you could increase your following with far right or far left or whatever the extreme you're going to is. You're always going to get a choir that claps along when you do that, no matter how boring it is.
And there are people you don't even know that will start following who have just searched on terms, searched on the terms you're using. Another way to get people to stop following you is really gaudy, colourful, bright coloured flashing GIFs. Filling people's timeline up with that. Things that are pink, flashing pink and yellow. Woohoo!
And then people just need to wear sunglasses. Yeah, you can get rid of them. And
any other tips for having a low follower count, Tim?
Yeah.
Sorry. I just love the way I asked that.
You could be Tim and say really insightful, thoughtful, just things about the world.
Post favorite album covers.
That's right. Yeah. Favorite album covers. Great quotes from theologians and philosophers. Make witty observations about the world. Promote the Unmade podcast.
Do you know the day that would be the saddest day for your Twitter following? It will be a real landmark. Is the day that Joe, who is your famous 2,000th follower, unfollows you.
This is my favourite thing. This is the person who took the time to draw a picture of me, but couldn't be stopped.
That will be the day that you've failed. It'll be like untaking your 500th test wicket.
Even Joe, even you have abandoned me. That's a pretty good idea. That would be a lot of fun as a bit of an experiment. I think you should do it.
I'm not going to do it, obviously, but I was thinking about the practicalities of it. I was thinking if you could get Twitter to help you do it, you could start 2 accounts, right? I mean, Twitter wouldn't do this, and for obvious reasons. But if we said to Twitter, can you help us do this? And they gave you and I each a new account, with a different name, and just randomly got 10,000 real Twitter people, random Twitter people, the same 10,000 to follow both of us, sneaked us into their follows. So suddenly we had 10,000 followers from scratch, and then it was go. How quick can you lose those 10,000?
That's the only problem with that, having a shadow account or mirrored account like that, is if you have a different name, the people are more it's not oh, Brady's now saying something crazy. It's oh, this Jeff Smith. You know what I mean? So not following someone they've never heard of before, I don't know why I'm following this person, will be a lot easier than them suddenly. Yeah, they may be a little bit more loyal to you, or they might be more quickly disgusted by.
Yeah, but that's why I think it's kind of fair if it's the same 10,000 people, and there is no latent loyalty, so you could burn off a lot of them pretty quickly, which would make the game a bit more fun. But there could be that last few hundred that you're really struggling to get rid of because they're like, "Oh, I like the cut of this guy's jib." Like, how you gonna lose that one? Like, what can you do to lose that one and that one? And you have to keep changing your tack. All right, I think I've lost everyone I'm going to lose with extreme political views. Now let's go to the flashy gifts. You keep changing tactic.
And the last person standing surely gets a one. Before you get to zero, that last follower, I've got one left. What can I do to this person? No matter what I do, they keep following me. Surely you have to say they're the most faithful follower. You've got to give them a gift.
And there are some people who just follow and don't look at their inbox. But like what you could do is with those, what you'd start to do is like once you got down to like double digits, you'd just start individually researching your followers. Oh, so and so really likes cats, so I'm going to do a few anti-cat tweets over the next few hours. Like you just start targeting the people individually.
How annoying are cats? Jeez, woke up this morning and thought, I hope I don't see a cat.
You write like a few anti-cat tweets, and then an hour or two later it goes, bloop, down one. Ah, yes, I lost that one. Who's next? Oh, yeah, the guy that likes car racing. You've got you covered.
That's a good idea. That's a fun idea. I like that. Well done. And progress.
Time for a quick sponsorship message.
Oh, now I'm looking forward to this. This is good.
Tim, it's Storyblocks again.
Yes.
Now, but we've got a special treat for this Storyblocks sponsorship message. But before we get to that, I just have to be absolutely clear on what Storyblocks is, because sometimes we get so carried away with the emotion and the fun of our sponsorship reads, we forget to do what we're supposed to do.
Right.
Just so you're clear, people, Storyblocks is a website. It's a subscription service that you pay for monthly. Very fair rates. And for that, you get access to an immense library of video stock footage. They also have stock sound and pictures, and you have unfettered access to the entire library to use in all your creations. Some of you may know when I'm not podcasting with Tim, I have a little side hustle as a YouTuber. And I regularly use Storyblocks video and sounds and things in my videos. It's super useful. I'm super grateful for it. You can check them out at storyblocks.com/unmade. Go and have a look. You won't regret it. But here is where we have a special treat for you. Harking back to our musical section from earlier, I have another email, Tim. This comes from Joe. Joe says, like you, I am incredibly inspired by that wonderful Sofa Shop jingle. It's truly a masterpiece of composition. Therefore, when I thought about how I could adapt it, I struggled to think of anything I'd want to change about the original. So what I decided to do was recreate the original, but for the episode sponsor Storyblocks, using most of Brady's improvised lyrics from the episode. I thought maybe you could use it in the next episode sponsorship message. And Joe, that is what we're doing. You may remember last episode I kind of made up some Storyblocks lyrics to go to the Sofa Shop song. Joe's taken it to the next level.
Storyblocks is your only stop for the footage you need. And Storyblocks, yeah, come and log in. We have footage designed for you. Pick a sound to match your picture too. The Storyblocks ain't gonna cost what you think it will. Don't you do a thing until you've been to storyblocks.com/unmade.
That is impressive.
Yeah.
So
it has a kind of cool sort of boy band sort of, I don't know, it has like I can't describe the sound to it. Is it 80s or?
I don't know. It's sort of its own time, perhaps, like the Sofa Shop itself. Oh, no, the Sofa Shop, we said, is clearly early 90s. Not a good way.
Or maybe it's a bit, you know that Tom Hanks, That Thing You Do, whatever. What was that Thing You Do? Is that what that Tom Hanks film was called, with that band of the kind of band of young men? Like
the late 50s, early 60s.
Yeah, or like the Monkees or something. Yeah. Or yeah. Yeah,
very keen young men with high voices and
but clean
sharp
cut
suits.
clean sharp suits, clean cut. The kind of boy you take home to meet your mother.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway,
Oh, yeah.
storyblocks.com/unmade. I mean, what else do we have to say? The song does it all.
The story blocks ain't gonna cost what you think it will. Don't you do a thing until you've been to storyblocks.com/unmade.
Oh, it's time for Spoon of the Week.
Spoon of the week. We need a jingle. It's Tim's Spoon of the Week. Yeah. Tim's Spoon of the Week is the only spoon for the Spoon of the Week that you need.
Well,
Tim's Spoon of the Week. Yeah, come and drop in. We've got a spoon that's designed for you.
you know, when you...
Choose your scoopy bit and your handle too. By the way, before I let you loose, Tim, with your Spoon of the Week,
Yeah.
it has been pointed out to us, a very interesting webpage. Multiple people pointed it out, so thank you for that. The anatomy of the spoon. Did you check this out?
I read a few people tweeted to me about the nature of the spoon, seeking to correct me, which, wasn't entirely welcome. But
let me just quickly give you some terms that might come in handy for this Spoon of the Week section, right?
Yep.
The part that you called the scoopy bit of the spoon.
Yep.
That is known as the bowl.
Oh,
the thin bit in the middle is called the stem, and then when the stem fattens towards the end for holding, that is called the handle. But in between, but we have some other parts. The very, very tip of the bowl that first touches the sugar is called the bowl tip.
Right.
The section where the stem joins the bowl is called the shoulders, where there's that little widening. And then between the shoulders and the bowl, where the shoulders drop down to the bowl, is called the drop. And we also have the very tip of the handle, the very far end of the spoon, far from the bowl tip, is called the terminal.
Look, this is... The spoons have more names and titles than a cricket field.
It is. You wouldn't think there were so many parts to a spoon. I also read in this article, they say the earliest Northern European spoon would seem to have been a chip or splinter of wood. I'm wondering if your dad has any of those in his collection.
Well...
One of his first spoons. Back when they just used to use seashells.
Commemorative seashells they were. What if these commemorative sort of tourist spoons were invented before eating spoons? Like people have collections of them around their house, and one day they look up from their cereal and they go, hang on a second, this little tourist thing looks like it could come in handy at this particular
I could use
point.
one of those commemorative spoons to eat my food with.
Yes, right.
Or dispense sugar.
That's right. They branched out from being commemorative tourist souvenirs. I have to say, I don't like the idea. I mean, the bowl is quite clearly the thing you're scooping the scoopy bit stuff out of. It's not, you can't have a bowl on the end of a spoon. The only bowl on the end of a spoon is the one that you're getting the stuff out of.
It does cause confusion, but hey, I can't help it. That's just, the spoon industry has its own little spoonerisms that it likes to use.
And it has spoken in force this week.
So just for people who don't know, Tim's family spoon collection, which was collected by his father over many years, has been passed down through the generations like a lightsaber. And Tim has them now, and each week he pulls one out to tell us a bit about it. What have you got this week, Tim?
This week is a very delightful...
I like how you drop your voice like a couple of octaves when you do, this week.
Well, I like to give it the respect that it deserves.
Yeah.
And it's important that we speak about the spoons in hushed tones.
Yes.
Because...
Well, you don't want the spoons that haven't made it into Spoon of the Week to hear, because they might get jealous.
I'm looking at them. They're back over in the spoon ark from which they are stored.
Tupperware container.
Looking jealously. That's right. Look, this week's spoon is from Churchill. Now, Churchill is a town in Victoria named after a very famous Prime Minister of Britain that you may have heard of. And it's features a power station, because the only thing of real interest in Churchill is the fact that it was the location for Hazelwood Power Station, which supplied like power for, a whole part of country Victoria.
Tim, before we come to the power station, which I have been researching and look forward to talking about,
all right.
Tell us about the actual look of the spoon for people who aren't watching the video or haven't clicked on the link in the description. Paint a picture using words of what this spoon looks like. Well,
it looks like a spoon. Like it's got a Scoopy big at one end and a handle down the other. What the hell do you think?
It's got a bowl, a stem, and a handle. what else is it?
And a shoulder and a short mid-wicket. What else has it got?
Silly head on. And then it has quite a nice stem, this one. It's got this kind of intertwining serpentine design. Very pretty. And then the handle itself, where the design is very pretty. It's sort of a blue enamelling with the word Churchill across the top.
Churchill, and then Vic. You see the little Vic, short for Victoria,
very nice,
named after another very famous historical British figure.
What, Victoria Beckham?
That's right. That's right. It's got it's like a tuft of the top of a crown. The puffy, felty bit on a crown at the top, which makes it look very royal.
But then underneath the word Churchill and the crown, and above the serpentine, wiggly stem, we have just this big blocky power station with two chimneys.
Station.
It's like
it's just got a bunch of chimneys. What are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 chimneys. And
is that historically accurate? Does the actual power station have 8? I'm going to check that.
Yes, it does. Yes, I can confirm 8.
Right.
I'm looking at it now.
Okay.
And
so it's a accurate rendering then. Although, look, I found the video of them being knocked down.
Well, you see, you're jumping ahead.
Sorry, spoilers, gosh. Sorry, pretend I didn't even say that. Sorry.
Oh, well, no. We'll talk about it now. They were knocked down recently, Brady. I don't know if you know that or not.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. Is there a video of it?
Well, I tell you, this power station is very close to my heart because we used to go and swim in its cooling pond when I was a kid.
And there's all these articles on the internet about how it's the most dangerous and polluting power station in the world.
Oh, yes, it is. In the Southern Hemisphere, it's just a disgraceful power station. And yeah, we would have church events, like building rafts and swimming and fishing. We'd fish in it. And it was lovely.
Did you eat the fish?
I can't remember if we ate the fish or not. We probably did, but I can't remember. Yeah. The thing is that the reason we loved it so much is because country Victoria is very, very cold, and because it was a cooling pot, it was warm, so the water was always kind of warm compared to...
Well, that was all the radioactivity.
It's just, this is a total Simpsons Springfield situation with, sort of three-eyed fish. Yeah, but I have very many happy memories of being there and having picnics and Santa Claus coming, one of the dads dressed up in a bad Santa Claus outfit, that kind of thing.
What, at the power station?
No, because it's the pondage was Hazelwood Pondage is just there, and it was a place to go and hang, it was a tourist destination, with barbecues, and it was encouraged that you go.
You were encouraged to swim in it. It wasn't like you sneaked over a fence and jumped in the water to be naughty. It was like come and swim in the water.
Oh, everyone was encouraged to go. Yep. Yeah. Yep.
Oh, wow.
It was a real highlight of the highlight of Churchill, to be honest.
Swimming in the water that came out of the power station. I love it. I am aware that, it is a coal-powered station, so it's not radioactive, but still.
No, that's right. Yeah, it's brown coal. Yeah, of which there's a ridiculous supply around the Latrobe Valley, around Gippsland. So there's a few power stations down that way. So yeah, it's Churchill. But like I said, because it's kind of iconic because you see it on the horizon, driving around different places, the towers. And it's become so familiar over time, right? So when I heard that it's long been decommissioned, but when I heard they were going to knock the towers down and they were broadcasting it live in May, just a few months ago,
right.
I tuned in live online. I was at work and I'm like, I want to see this. So I watched it as the explosives went off and saw it live as it all collapsed. And I was like, oh, wow, there it goes.
Was that fun?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's enjoyable watching stuff fall over, like blow up. It's fantastic. It was funny how the chimneys, they collapsed towards each other. So they, instead of fanning out or just blowing them up or blasting them up into the air like rockets or something.
Putting them into orbit.
You kind of hope they would just shoot up, like
SpaceX.
But they collapsed inwards to form sort of a mountain figure or something, like a big V, really. The out ones went in and they all landed, and then all the soot and stuff came out from them, and it looked pretty I'm glad I wasn't standing nearby with young children or anything like that.
I'm surprised the people of the Latrobe Valley weren't encouraged to come and sit on Santa's lap underneath as they all collapsed. It was a big tourist event.
Oh, dear. Yeah. The great thing about them, we used to go to a campsite for school called Woorabinda, which wasn't far away. And it was like a school camp kind of thing with dormitories and a flying fox, that kind of thing. And we'd go there for years and years, and it was wonderful. And there was a little pond near there as well where you'd do a bit of canoeing and whatnot. And I remember finding some advertising for it, looking it up online, just feeling a bit nostalgic one day. And sure enough, there it is, an advertisement for Woorabinda campsite with the canoes. And then prominent in the background is the power station. Like, it's a feature of the photograph. It's like, come and camp near this. Like, it's great views of the power station.
Sign of human ingenuity.
Yeah. Well, that's right. I mean, this is what power stations were in many days. You come through the industrial age and people just gave them names and loved them, and then suddenly we realised, oh gosh, this is not having a particularly helpful impact on the environment or us.
So presumably, Tim, your Churchill spoon with the Hazelwood power station on it, now that the power station's gone, is a valuable relic, because it's one of the few remaining images of what the power station once looked like.
When you say few remaining images, that's right, apart from millions of photographs probably. Well, I do say that there are some nostalgic features of these old work sites and several others around, like old factories and things around country Victoria. I wonder at how many spoons there are. It would be a bit of a collector's item, particularly for workers that used to work there. People give 40, 50 years of their life there, and then they have a sense of nostalgia and connection about it.
Why would your dad have bought this spoon if he lived very close to Churchill and this power station anyway?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I don't know. Like, why? It could be that he bought it so long ago when he was new to the Latrobe Valley, and so he lived in Moe, and maybe he just, bought up spoons from different areas. Or Dad was always very proud of the power stations. The Loy Yang power station, that we've talked about before, down in Terrelgan, Dad would take visitors and drive around. So maybe he was reasonably proud of this one.
He was a power station kind of guy,
He
It's cool. I don't blame him. I love. There are lots of power stations around the UK I drive past, and I love them. I think they're amazing.
I love the look of the Battersea power station. That's just such a handsome building, isn't it? Yeah,
that's very cool. That's very cool.
Can I just mention some of the other features? Like, as a spoon, it looks lovely, but it is a bit thin to hold. Right. And it's obviously they're teaspoons, so you wouldn't go using it for too much. But it's not terribly ergonomic.
What's the balance like on it? Has it got nice balance?
Yeah, it's
bit bowl heavy.
It's not bad. It's not bad. I have to if I want to hold it, if I want to balance it in my hand, its center of gravity is very close down towards the scooping part.
The bowl, man.
The bowl. No, I can't abide that. I have to say, I turn it over, and there's no. Often you'll find on the back of spoons like the craftsman's name or a
hallmark.
Year or something.
The hallmark, it's called.
Is it? Right, okay. But there's nothing. This one's just smooth.
Anonymous.
Which either it's been worn away through regular use, which I doubt it. It's just been hanging on a collector's hook. Or it's just, of no significance whatsoever. Or the person disowned it as soon as they made it.
Or it was made by one of the greats, like the Da Vinci of spoons, and he just hasn't signed it. And some expert will come along one day and say, "Oh my goodness, that's an early Da Vinci Churchill spoon.
Perhaps.
Priceless.
It's a bit like you don't need to sign it. It's like, yes.
It could be like a Fabergé egg of spoons.
I think it's more the Fabergé genes of spoons, man, than the Fabergé egg.
The other thing we do with the spoon of the week, of course, is we spin the wheel of randomness, which I will start now to decide who will be the recipient of not the Churchill spoon, that's a Hine family heirloom,
Yes.
but an Unmade podcast spoon, which are in the design and manufacturing process at the moment. And when I finally have them, we're going to be sending a few out to randomly selected patrons. This week, the lucky patron is Adrian. Adrian, who hails from Romania.
Oh, wow.
Adrian the Romanian.
That's the first time we've heard of a Romanian listening or engaging. Fantastic. Welcome, Adrian, and congratulations.
I don't know how many Romanians listen. I hope no others called Adrian. Otherwise, again, I've caused confusion. But Adrian, you will, when the spoons are finally delivered, you will be sent one. And if you are a Patreon supporter, you will be in the draw next time Tim talks Spoon of the Weeks. Spoons of the Week? Weeks of the Spoon? What, I don't know. Next time we do this.
Have you considered putting a power station on the Unmade spoon? Was that one of the designs? I haven't seen the designs yet, and I'm just wondering whether
neither
that's
have I,
something
to be
you're
honest.
playing
It's currently with the designer, but you will see a design when I get it. But the power station has not been considered. I think it might be a bit late in the game to chuck a power station on there.
Oh, I'll throw it in the hopper.
Well, maybe next time. I haven't said this will be the only spoon we ever release. This is just our first souvenir spoon. First of many.
Okay. Oh,
first of
the
many,
first
I
of
hope.
many. Who knows? Yes.
Yeah. All right. Congratulations, Adrian.
Congratulations, Adrian.
You and joined Guido from the Netherlands, who won last week.
Did I mention my dad's from the Netherlands?
So we're kind of a bit out of time. We're going to abort Tim's idea this week.
No.
You know why. You're playing all innocent. It's because Tim's idea we'd already done. We'd already done Tim's idea, people. He spent an hour before the show researching it, told me about it.
That's in the bin.
That's you screwing your hour's research for an idea we'd already done.
Oh, dear.
Never mind, because your bacon has been saved by Anna. Anna is a Patreon supporter, and we like to read out ideas from Patreon supporters here on the show from time to time. Go to patreon.com/unmadefm if you would like to support us and perhaps submit your own idea, as well as being in the running for a spoon, and as well as getting a free golden sofa shop pin when you reach $50. My goodness, it's worth being a patron, isn't it?
It is. My turn to say just a second now. I've just got a cleaner here. I just want to check she's...
Is that for the spoons?
Hello. Hello. It's okay. I'm just working here, okay?
I hope you did air quotes when you said you were working.
That's right. See all these books on the bookshelf and they go, it's very important.
Wow.
Very important work.
What's he doing? He must be like writing a book. No, he's talking about spoons to his friend in England. So, here we go. This is Anna. Hi, Tim and Brady. My name's Anna, and I'm an illustrator from San Francisco, currently living in Scotland. I often listen to the Unmade podcast while I paint portraits for fantasy, sci-fi, book and comic covers.
Wow.
I get the Sofa Shop song stuck in my head constantly. Now, I'm just going to break off for a minute here. I don't want to put any ideas in your head, Anna, but if you were to make a sci-fi fantasy book cover of Tim and I about the Unmade podcast, I'm just saying. That'd be pretty awesome. That might inspire us to actually write the sci-fi book to go with it.
I feel like I need the cover to inspire the idea.
Yeah.
For it to write.
We'll get the book commissioned just off the strength of Anna's cover.
Indeed, yes.
My idea for a podcast was inspired by a friend taking the UK citizenship test. Many of the random questions about history, politics, landmarks, etc. might puzzle even natives. Here's a sample question. What was shampooing when it was first introduced in Britain? The correct multiple choice response being the Indian art of head massage. I was thinking the podcast could be called The Citizenship Test and take on a different country every episode. The 2 or more hosts could alternate between researching questions and being tested, starting with their own countries. The researcher would describe amusing tidbits and stories relating to the few chosen questions. For countries without a typical test or sample questions available, the tester could create multiple choice questions based on their research. Ideally, a fun guest from each featured country would try their hand at answering correctly. The guest would even come up with their own more culturally relevant questions. A UK example would be, what is the incorrect use of the word pudding? A quick bread made of batter. B, a term used for the dessert course. C, the gravy for a roast dinner. Or D, a blood sausage. The word pudding here confuses me to no end. Anyways, the podcast would mostly be an excuse to chat with friends while exploring little aspects of culture and history, and of course to see how many potential citizenships, if any, the hosts could rack up. Thanks, Tim and Brady, for brightening my days. Anna.
Oh, nice.
Cracker of an idea. Idea. That's a gimme.
Very impressive.
How much fun, because people love talking about other countries and cultures, and they love quizzes. This combines the two.
Genius. Let's re-record this and make it my idea.
All right. Great idea, Tim. Great idea.
Thanks. Oh, look, it just came to me. I was painting a sci-fi picture in Scotland, and I suddenly thought, wow.
Yeah. So I have an American friend who recently applied for UK citizenship, and she made a quiz based on all the questions that can be asked in the test on her phone and made like her own app. And for weeks before the test, she would just pull out her phone and use her own app she'd made to do questions about England. And she would sometimes get it out and show like me and my wife, and we would try and answer the questions. It's really fun trying to answer citizenship questions for your own country.
Yeah.
Because part of the time you feel really superior and knowledgeable, and other times you get thrown a curveball and you're like, my goodness, do they really expect Americans to know that? I don't even know that.
See, what is the purpose of the quiz? I mean, you think, is it to... The idea that she's, sort of researching and studying for it indicates, is it because they want to test your devotion to the country that you want to become a citizen of, or are they trying to catch you out?
I think it must be I don't think they're trying to catch you out and make sure that, maybe they are, maybe they're trying to make sure that you haven't, been secretly living somewhere else. But I thought it was more to show like an engagement with the culture that you're becoming a part of. But
it's not a proof, is it? It's not like, well, no, if you know these 20 things, then you quite obviously are eligible to be a citizen, because they're not 20 definitive questions that you have to know to be an Australian or to be English.
Well, if they were the same 20 questions, like people would just memorise the answers, there has to be like some variety and unpredictability to it, doesn't there? So,
but that also opens the fact that there's variety and unpredictability means that it makes it less clear what you're testing. You're probably just getting people to think deeply and to have a general acquaintance with the place. But it's...
I don't know if there's a definitive list and they tell you will get asked 20 questions from these 500, or whether or not they change them all the time and you can be thrown one that you could never have seen before. I don't know. What questions would you put in a citizenship test for Australia?
There are a few things about, name. You could ask general questions like name 2 dominant sports or the 2 most dominant sports or something like that show that you have an awareness of the country.
It would be like, what sport did Don Bradman play?
Yeah, but then, okay, so this is Don Bradman, right, who died 20 years ago and played 50 years ago. I mean, what relevance to being an Australian does that...
Every Australian knows who Don Bradman is.
Well... I think we're more multicultural than that. But no, my point is that you don't need to be Australian to know that. Just because it's a part of the living memory of many people.
Yes.
It's not like you become eligible to be Australian by knowing that. I would rather them have a sense of the rule of law and a sense of the culture and affair. Yeah, do you know what I mean? Like, it's such a funny thing to test.
Fair enough.
Like, something more appropriate would be around understanding the separation of powers and... the political system and how democracy works and how why we don't have a president, something like that. Why don't we have a president? Why? That's the sort of thing I think gives you a better feel for the place. Who is the head of state?
It's interesting drawing that line, because I totally agreed with you when you say, why should someone who's moving to Australia from China have to know who Don Bradman is? They don't care about cricket. But then you say they should know how the parliament works. And I can sort of see why there's more reason for them to understand how the democracy works, because it does affect their life, how they're governed. But equally, you're allowed to live in a country and not understand how the parliament works. That's your right too. Why should they have to know anything other than drive on the left and, don't stab people?
What the law is, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this is the thing. Half of Australia doesn't know its own national anthem. Like they're very vastly ignorant. What we saw 20 years ago when we had the referendum on Australia becoming a republic, and what you realise is that a lot of people don't quite understand the way our parliamentary system works at the moment.
I think you should just have to listen to any 10 episodes of the Unmade podcast, and then you're in. Because how can you learn more about Australian culture than listening to the Unmade podcast?
You would learn a lot about Adelaide and Traralgon.
I think there should be an Adelaide citizenship test where you just have to answer questions about Adelaide. Do you know the highest mountain in South Australia?
No. Mount Lofty, is it? No, something in the Flinders Ranges? No.
No, neither of those. Yeah, exactly.
What is it?
It's Mount Woodruff.
Where's that?
It's right up in the top northwestern corner of the state, I believe. I've never been there. I've always wanted to go there. It's not an easy place to go to because it's on Aboriginal lands, so you need special permission. And it's not like impressive. It's not like the Matterhorn or anything, but I've always wanted to go there because I'm fascinated by highest points, but I never have. It's very unimpressive, but just because it's the tallest mountain in my state. So, Anna, thank you for an excellent idea. Thank you for being a Patreon supporter. Thank you for saving Tim's bacon after his idea had to be screwed up and thrown in the bin at the last minute.
This is what happens when I prepare. It never works out when I prepare.
I would argue that you haven't totally prepared if you haven't checked that the idea's been done. It's not okay. I mean, I have no bone to pick with you. I find it mildly amusing. But the idea you picked was also the title of the episode that the idea was in.
I'm supposed to remember that. Yeah. Just because I'm back in the same room where we recorded it.
So next week, hopefully we will be back with an original idea from Tim. Maybe, who knows? But we definitely will be back with a spoon, with maybe more sofa shop covers from fans.
I actually have an idea that I've got ready for next week. I'm not going to mention. I'm just going to say that there's a hint and so forth. It involves glitter and a unicorn. There we go. I'm going to leave that with you.
All right. Did you remember the girl's words this week, by the way?
I did actually.
Well done.
Just embedded in there somewhere.